session. Okay, so let me just share a little bit about you, first of all, for people who are joining who may not know about you and your work. Oh, 1 second there. Sorry, technology side here. Okay, so welcome Yaacov and Susannah, Darling Khan. And so for everyone to get to know you a little better, Susannah and Yaacov are two of the foremost teachers of embodied consciousness on the planet and have been teaching internationally since 1989. They have been together for more than 30 years. They have taught many thousands of people from a huge variety of cultures, ages, and backgrounds over the years, and are well known for creating the contemporary form of everyday shamanism known as movement medicine. Yaakov's new book, Jaguar in the Body, Butterfly in the Heart, The Real-Life Initiation of an Everyday Shaman, was released through Hay House just a couple of days ago on June 6th. So for more details on this and all of Susannah and Yaakov's work, please visit www.darlingkhan.com. And I will put that link and a couple of other links in the chat as we go along so that people can easily access your work if they want to learn more. So I am so excited to talk with you about your beautiful topic, the battle of the sexes and the medicine to heal it. Mm-hmm. Isn't that what we all need?
Oh my God. It's been a long journey, isn't it, sweetheart?
Yeah. So I'd love to begin by asking you to each share, what do you mean by battle of the sexes? Could you tell me a little bit about your own story in regards to that?
Well, should you go first or should I go first?
Well, we could get right in there.
I should go first. No, it's probably your turn to go first. You go first.
Well, what we mean by the battle of the sexes is both very, very personal to us, and at the same time, we feel it's a pretty collective theme. Mm. So, as you said, we've been together 31 years. And what's been astonishing to me, so I'll start with the personal, then I'll go to the collective, and then come back to the personal. As we've gone along, we've kept noticing, and I've kept noticing, the levels of defense in my whole system. It feels like a cellular, at one point I conceived of them as like these little knights, like the elven knights in Tolkien, like in grey, beautiful cloaks, inside every cell, just with spears, just waiting for the attack, that on some very primordial, inexplicit, pre-verbal, like bone deep level, I was kind of existentially expecting and ready to defend against, all the time, from my man. And so there's this, like, on the one hand, this longing for intimacy and sharing and deep, deep communion. On the other hand, the fear of wipeout, annihilation, like obliteration from the male, by the male. That's the way I had conceived of it. Now, that took a long time to get to the level of trust between us where I could actually even feel that. And then making the connections between all the stuff that's happened in our lineages, my lineage, probably your lineage, through the world, back to the witch burnings and all that kind of stuff, and back and back and back. And just the level of this very cellular sense of defense, which was obstructing our real communion, the big theme, the big banner being trust, or lack of trust. And then there was an amazing moment when I recognized how I was contributing to that with aggression as well as defense. That what I felt as defensiveness was actually being expressed in this kind of ongoing, so-called small or petty kind of belittling of my man, that was like just cutting him down to size, like just making sure he didn't get too big for his boots, all that kind of cliched stuff that I had no idea I was doing.
I hope you're all feeling sorry for me now.
Well, his story's coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was so sure that that wasn't me. I saw it in my parents' marriage, which is basically a really good marriage, but nevertheless, this ongoing sense of, undercutting of the man and fear of the guy. And that was a extraordinary day when I suddenly saw that in myself. So this sense of, and Yaacov will talk about the male side, but from the female side, there being this, on the one hand, fear that's founded in history for many reasons, and defensiveness, and then gets actually expressed as aggression, unconscious, passive aggression, or aggression anyway, that we noticed. Oh God, that's my part of the story. He's about to give the other side.
I love that imagery of the little men with swords, like one in every cell, because I can feel that in myself, in relationship at times. So yeah.
It sounds awful, doesn't it? It's like, oh my God, how did we survive?
That is so subtle. It's within a general feeling of love and ease and trust and goodness. It's a very subtle level.
Yeah, I mean, just to put that more into context, what Susannah's describing is the underlying pattern that we finally recognized was at the root of our unhappiness. And we were a relatively good couple. We were working together. We were doing a lot of good work in the world. We were relatively happy. We had relatively good communication. But underneath, there was this constant fighting for power, for ground. And, so I think that's going on for in pretty much all relationships. Once you've got past the honeymoon phase, which if you're in it, enjoy it, really enjoy it, really thoroughly enjoy it. Don't let anyone put you down for it. It's a beautiful, beautiful state, and celebrate it and take it. But when it comes to an end, as it naturally does, there's this, for me, really the basis of relationship as spiritual practice. And we have come to the understanding, along with some elders of ours who we've been working with, that relationship is the deepest spiritual practice we know, because we bring to relationship all our deepest selves, because love reveals, love pulls back the curtain. And when you pull back the curtain, there's not just I love you forever. There's all of our previous hurts, all of our wounds, all of our fears of losing self, of not being able to be good enough in our love of one another. All the things we bring from our childhoods, from our lineages. Susannah mentioned the witch burnings. This battle between feminine and masculine goes back, as we know, a very, very long way. So we are inheritors of both the goodness of our ancestral lines and also the unfinished business. So it's there in the space between us. And when we started our relationship, I was very much into the peace movement. I was an honorary feminist. I belonged, this is so embarrassing, but anyway, never mind. I belonged to a men's group that was called the Wee Willie Wimpos and the Wailing Wizards of Gondwana Land. The Wee Willie Wimpos and the Wailing Wizards of Gondwana Land. And we were proud to be really good feminists.
Sorry, go ahead.
We were desperately trying to show all the women around us how deeply we were feeling life. And, it was a really important and necessary stage of but we also felt terribly guilty for 9,000 years of patriarchy. And we were carrying that because somebody had to. And in a way, rightly, to have that moment of, God, this has been tough. Like what we've done as men to women, that's tough. It takes some bearing, it takes some responsibility. But we also then had this understanding that somehow power, or like really the force of who we were, was not acceptable. And we were trying to be good and nice and compassionate and feeling full and all the good things, which of course puts all the unacceptable feelings in the shadow, in the shame box, and they'll come out somewhere. And so we had to, what we discussed, what we saw, and what was obvious for us in our relationship and in our family was, when I was tired, I was pretty irritable. I had a low level irritation about ridiculous things. We laugh about it now, but Susannah would leave her tea bags in the sink, and that used to drive me insane. Like I never stopped to think about why I was so irritated. I was just irritated because there's a tea bag in the sink, and sounds so ridiculous, but in those moments it was really serious for me. And only over the years I kind of got to understand that it was a symbol for me of whether I felt cared for or not. I'm pretty zen. I like things in their place. And so when I could then come to Susannah and say, hey, I'd love you to care for me in this way. I'd love it if you put your tea bag all the way from your teacup right into the compost. I know it's tiny and ridiculous, but it would make me feel cared for. And Susannah was able to do that for me. And when you find these tiny little things that are underneath this battle that's going on, we find out that there is an expectation that we're bringing, an unconscious expectation, which we believe relationship is the best way of healing. And that unconscious expectation is all our hurts, all our unfulfilled needs, all our dreams that we don't know if we'll manage to land them on this earth. All the most sensitive and magical and really spirited parts of our being, which need enormous amounts of trust to make themselves known. And so it was, as Susannah said, it was very obvious to us that I was the irritable one, and it was obvious to our son as well. And so I committed to try to get to the bottom of that, and I did. And then once we'd realized that, then we suddenly became aware of what Susannah described as her defensive aggression, and how ongoing that was, and that I hadn't even noticed. And I had brought some kind of expectation into the space between us, that somehow I deserved to be blamed for my woman's problems.
Wow. Or 9,000 years of patriarchy.
Or 9,000 years of patriarchy.
Yeah.
And we were just playing out this blame game, and actually it's painful when it's not a conscious part of the discussion, when we're not conscious of that's what we're doing. And sometimes when we work with couples now and we help them to see these little actions, which seem like not very much, but on an ongoing basis are actually causing each other a lot of suffering, and they come from our unowned selves. So for me then, over the years, to find my way back to the force of being a man, like this particular power, masculine power that is absolutely inside me, it's certainly inside Susannah too, but for me to own that and learn to trust myself with that power, and so that I could trust myself, so that Susannah could trust me. And step by step, that's been an extraordinary recent chapter of our time together.
Mm-hmm. So we're kind of moving on to the next question, I think, aren't we?
Well,
yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I was just thinking about all that you've both just shared, and it's so helpful to to look at things, because it's so hard when you're in that relationship to see that in yourself, as you've experienced. It's so hard to see it in yourself, and to see the underlying reason. Yeah.
It's much easier to do.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So why is this work so important, both on an individual level, and then how can that affect us on a planetary level?
So deep, that question. Let's go first.
You go first.
Okay, so we're out of balance as humans. In the industrial world, we're out of balance. We're way over towards our yang expression in the world, and it's not even really yang. It's a distortion of yang, because when yang is not connected to yin, it's distorted, and when yin is not connected to yang, it's distorted. So yin becomes more victim based, like just helpless, and yang becomes more oppressive or persecutory, and then you get this incredible polarity between them, rather than the dance of creation and upholding. And so we see this in ourselves, and we see it all around us. It's in our relationship to our bodies, and then through our bodies, it's in our relationship to this living earth that we depend on for life. And when we're not when we're so in a yang, distorted yang expression, like more coffee, keep going, more coffee, keep going, less sleep, climb the ladder, get more, take more, have more, consume more, and we're not meeting that hunger at all inside ourselves, which is not hungering for things, it's hungering for love and connection. And so we become this voracious, consumptive disease, rather than a beautiful, upholding, caretaking, guardianship presence as part of the web of life. And it's all based in this difficulty we have of really knowing, owning, embodying in ourselves and between us a healthy, constructive, mutually upholding dance of yin and yang.
Absolutely. So to kind of concertina out from that, another way of putting that is that the relationship between man and woman, as well as the relationship between feminine and masculine, or yin and yang, is absolutely central to the good vibration that we humans bring or don't bring to planet Earth. Mm-hmm. And it's been knocked out of balance by last hundreds and last thousands of years of history, and maybe before then, we don't really know, but it's certainly not in balance. And the problem is we're so used to it not being in balance, because we've grown up inside it, that we're not even aware of that. So we think, as Yaacov was talking, our controlling, consumptive, consuming, or disempowered state of being is somehow normal. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and the kind of disengagement with a sense of life and the web of life that we're part of and that we depend on. So we're like these kind of specks of psyche in the do it alone dance. I've got to do it alone, I've got to make it alone, which is the basic survival strategy in response to not feeling that one can trust community, trust the ones you're really, really close to.
Trust another nation.
Trust another nation, or trust your husband or your wife. And so one name for that is the vicious circle. The vicious circle of defense and aggression. And most most aggressors, most persecutors feel like they're defending something. Persecutors or aggressors don't generally realize they're being aggressive. They feel, and inside themselves, their truth is, for most people in that place, whether it's nations or individuals, you feel like you're defending something, and you're righteously and rightfully, and that you are in danger of becoming victimized or annihilated or wiped out. So the dance of healing that, and I just want to mention, in terms of recent history, the 2 last world wars, I've realized how much that's impacted my family lineages, and how the men that did come back from those wars came back with really severe, undiagnosed and untreated post-traumatic stress disorder, which made them subject to these outbursts of temper and rage, and the women and their families kind of also, without any support, exactly, had to absorb, because there was nothing else to do. And that, again, those messages about don't let go, basically, don't really open yourself to another human being, are so subliminally in most of our psyches in the West. You know, we come from a wounded lineage, and we're the walking, as Gabrielle Roth used to say, we're the walking wounded, and we don't recognize it. So we're still enacting that stuff and then recreating it over and over in these spirals or vicious circles of self-fulfilling prophecies. And to get inside that and begin to take responsibility for that, and begin to change the story and heal the layers of grief and rage and fear and terror that are in there, is both personal work and it's world work. And I think until we, the white people of the world, you know, the Europeans and the Americans, and we've been in a dominant role in the world for some time in terms of militarily and with colonialism and all that, until we begin to actually look at what's happened in our psyches, which is personal, but it's also very much to do with the male-female thing, we're going to go on being a damaging presence. And, you know, it's wake up or die, basically, isn't it? As a species on Earth right now, we get it together or we don't. And either it's now is the time. Yeah, and I really want to acknowledge how long it's taken us, you know, with relative sanity between us and in our lineages, with a huge amount of support, to get to this point where we're beginning to really harvest the beauty and the depth and the love that's possible when one can switch from the vicious circle to the virtuous spiral, which I guess is where it might be good to go next. But you guide us.
Yeah,
I just
something.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I mean, a couple of things. One is, it's obvious to us, but just to say that Susannah talked about the relationship between men and women being central. Of course, same-sex relationships also have a huge dance going on in terms of healing that's necessary.
Absolutely.
And that's obvious to us, but good for us to make that clear.
Thank you.
And the other thing is, when Susannah was talking about particularly the world wars and the effect on the men and the women and the family and what that's done, and then you go back, we recently discovered in a healing space between us the effect of those witch burnings on the men who had to witness their women, their daughters, their mothers, their sisters, and had not been able to fulfill their instinctive their instinct to protect, and what damage that had done. And you know, we met Pat McCabe, who I think has Pat been one of your speakers?
Yes.
She came over here in the summer for in a couple of months ago, just to say hello. And we were talking about this, and you know, that she had come to recognize that the people who came and inflicted so much damage on her people were the grandchildren of these men who'd been broken, who'd lost their souls in that horror of not being able to fulfill their role. So this all sounds very heavy and depressing, but it's, in shamanism, we always say that the more energy there is in a story, the more energy there is. And that energy is life energy that is waiting in all of us to be transformed into something positive and something useful and protected. And we know that it's possible to do that work. We know through our experience, and we've really been through it. And occasionally we still do go through it. There's always layer upon layer, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it for the harvest that comes when you're willing to, when you're in that kind of that dance, to just go, wait a minute, what am I actually feeling? What's actually going on? What am I protecting here? What do I believe I'm protecting? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so important to acknowledge, for people who are doing this work or stepping into this work, that how deep it goes, that, as you've said, thousands of years, generation upon generation upon generation, where we've been told that this is normal. We've been told we need to just keep our emotions in and not worry about it and just deal. And we need, in order to heal all that, we need to go really, really deep into that. And it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some work, and that's okay, and to be patient with ourselves.
Yeah,
exactly.
Patience, absolutely.
Exactly.
And also it's fascinating. There are times when it's painful. There's no other word for it. There are times when it really hurts to heal. But there are also many times where it's so touching and funny and sweet and exciting and empowering. So there's all of those things that make it easier to climb this particular mountain, or to descend into this particular valley, both.
And there aren't that many role models of people that have made it into genuine harvest. And we feel like we're just really beginning to get there, where there's more of the time than the other time. Yeah, we're like 51 or 53%, like over the midway line.
Just gone over the halfway point.
So the virtuous spiral of love and trust and good communication is, that sounds pretty intense, but when we really, really go down to it, that feels about accurate. But there aren't that many examples of people that have made it over there. So the incentive to just keep going, as you say, with patience and doing the work. And at the same time, I'm certainly not saying that somebody should hang in there for ever and ever and ever if their partner isn't willing to do that other side of the work, because it does take two to tango. And you can do a lot by yourself, but you can't do the whole thing. It needs both.
You can't drag
people.
your partner up the mountain.
No, you can't. You really can't. Yeah.
They have to be willing to walk for themselves.
And it's tough because you have to.
Many have tried to drag their partner off the mountain.
Many have tried. Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear more about the move from the vicious cycle to the virtuous circle. So could you share about that, and how can we make that change?
I was going to tell
the handbag story. Let me say
go ahead.
The context, and then I would say also think of the handbag story.
Okay.
Okay. So the vicious circle is where you have each of you have an inbuilt expectation or fear about the reality that the other one really is going to betray you or annihilate you or abandon you, or whatever the story is. And because of that fear that's operating unconsciously most of the time in you perceive them through that lens. So we perceive each other through that lens, and then we tend to perceive exactly the thing that we fear, because that's the way the expectations work. We perceive or we interpret according to that in a lens of that fear, and then we adjust our own behavior in a way to defend ourselves or to try and deal with that perceived threat. And then we end up acting in a way that provokes our partner into doing the very thing that we feared that they were going to do in the first place. And then we say, you see, I told you so. No, that inner voice, I was right. He da-da-da-da-da-da, whatever it is. Or she, you see, I did need to da-da-da because she da-da-da-da-da. And
then boom, you're in.
And there is this unerring match. It
Always.
seems like in every partnership we know that has gone to this level, there's an extraordinary, perfect, like two jigsaw pieces matching, where one person's vicious circle or that cycle of self-fulfilling prophecy and the actions that they take as a result of that completely lock into and confirm the fears of the other one. So you get this escalating.
You named that. You described it as
the vicious circle.
No,
the shadow marriage. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we call this the shadow marriage, and it is extraordinary. You say, you can say that marriages are made in heaven, but they're also made in hell because this match seems to be quite extraordinarily perfectly fitting,
because that's what you're there to heal.
And then you get to deal with that, the most scary thing in your psyche about communicating or communing with another is that. And then
so if what we're saying is, if your partner meets your worst fears, you're probably in the right place.
Oh,
I don't mean that.
No,
we don't mean that, of course, in terms of
not
really,
that extreme.
Not that extreme. But the thing is, they always match, as Susannah says. That when it gets down to it, we discovered that our matching vicious circle was, I'm deep down, there's a belief in me that I will be betrayed, that you will betray me. And Susannah had a deep belief.
Deep down, I know you're going to rub me out, wipe me out, annihilate me.
And so, and this was like underneath, right on the ground floor. It's like, wow, my God, that's what. And underneath all our fights, basically, they all came down to that expectation, that hurt, that very specific wound that each of us carry from our histories.
So I'm frightened of being annihilated, so then I act in a way that's kind of aggressive and defensive, or looking after me, because I'm the only person that really will look after me. So I'm looking after me, then that is perceived as, oh, you see, she's not there for me, she's betraying me. And then his reaction to that becomes aggressive and irritable, which confirms to me, you see, he is attacking me, so I do have to.
And then that's it, you're in. And it's amazing. Once you're in, you can stay there for decades, a long time,
lifetimes,
a long time.
And it's such a subconscious level, For most people, it's just completely, you're just acting it out and you don't know why.
And it's very compelling, very compelling. It's, even though it's God, I remember so many times when
about the bridge
when we're starting that kind of an argument, and I can see the next 5 or 6 hours laid out before me. I know exactly what's going to happen, and I know I'm just going to play all of my moves perfectly, and even though it hurts like hell, there I was doing it again and again and again. It's kind of crazy until I was ready to go, what's going on? Wow, I'm hurting. This is my wound that I'm acting out and trying to stop myself feeling right now. And so that's the thing. That is the moment. That's the key. When we're able to go, ouch, I'm hurting. I'm wounded. I'm carrying a belief here that I believe with my full life force is true right now, but there's just a tiny bit of doubt, and I'm really interested. Is there another possible reality going on here? Could there be healing? Could it be that it's safe enough here? Do I trust this other human being enough here to let you see into this place where I'm naked and vulnerable?
Yes.
And unprotected.
And I think you just said the key thing, which is that it's about having kind of harvested through one's work with together over the years enough trust. It's a kind of critical mass of trust or critical kind of proportion of trust that allows one to make that incredibly bold and exquisitely vulnerable move to actually declare what's going on and what one is requesting of the other. So when Yaacov, the first time he told me that when I leave a tea bag in the sink or don't clean every speck of dust off the floor, after I've been cooking or whatever, that he interprets that as me not caring for him, and that's the translation. It was so heart-opening. And then I can choose to put my tea bag in the compost or clean up that speck of flour or whatever, dust from the floor, not because I'm frightened of being told off or someone being angry or irritated with me, but because I love him and I want him to feel cared for. It's like a complete game changer.
So it's no longer a fight. It's no longer right or wrong. It's a choice about whether we look after each other, and we do our best to look after each other, even in our, strange little needs that, even in my vague Asperger's attention to needing to have everything in place. It's like, if that's what really I'm needing to feel at home, and you can give it, and you can give it, and there's lots, of course, the other way, then you just go, why not? If I love this human being, of course I want to give it to you.
Well, when we watched the Temple Grandin film, do you remember? Oh, we actually realised that it's not Yaacov being picky. He perceives in a very particular way that is on that kind of spectrum.
Temple Grandin is a high functioning autistic who does incredible work with animal translation.
Animal behaviourist, exquisite, perceptive.
Yeah, I read one of her books.
Yeah, she's incredible.
I'd watched this film where she came back to her room. She was staying at her mother's sister's, and
farm,
and working on the farm, and she was doing okay. And somebody came in to clean her room and moved one little piece of paper, just a little bit, and she came back, and it just freaked her out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching this, and I couldn't stop crying. I was like, "My God, I know exactly how she feels," and it's not. It's just, it was such a relief in a way, just to kind of go, God, this is a need. It's to do with a certain kind of sensitivity. And, all of us have certain kinds of sensitivities that need looking after.
And that accepting of each other's eccentricities or, particular unique needs. Like, I'm very, very orally sensitive. I need particular quality of silence.
Oral, she means audio.
Audially.
Yes.
AUR.
Yes. Just to make that clear.
Yeah. Well, it seems in being vulnerable, in that way, in saying, when one partner is saying to another, look, it just really would mean a lot to me, for whatever the reason is, then that other person can respond from a place of love.
That's,
I think,
you were going to say that.
I will. I'll tell you a little story in a moment. I just wanted to add that we mentioned our elders, two of they are our very best friends, called Jake and Ava Chapman. And they also have a website on relationship, which shares all that they have discovered in their relationship.
Very useful.
It's like what to do in conflict. Very, very down to earth, very, very lucid. And it's called Relating Manual.
I actually haven't got it in my head.
We'll let you know somehow or other. Anyway, and one of their basic rules that they taught to us, and they shared with us as a possibility, they call the 50-50 rule. And we have found this so useful, which basically means when you're in conflict, when there's a conflict between two people who are relatively equal in power, then the cause of that conflict is 50% one and 50% the other. And my job is not to give all my attention to you and tell you what your 50% is. My job is to pay attention to what am I doing? How am I being that is creating this conflict between us? What's my part of this? And if I can own that, then we're going to find peace, not just peace, but a passionate peace, not a peace that sweeps things under the carpet, but a peace that's full-blooded, courageous, bold. And so I just wanted to mention them and mention that rule, because it's bloody hard sometimes. Like when you're really triggered, that's the last thing you want to hear is somebody saying 50-50 rule. It's like,
yeah, normally, but not this time. This time it's you.
Yeah, exactly.
We are going to play all those games with it, but we've both reached a place where we know now we can try the theatre for a bit, but we both know that eventually we're going to come back and we're going to go, okay, what am I doing?
Yeah, that's a beautiful guideline. Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you have any other tips or recommendations for people who find themselves in that situation? How to get out of that spiral?
Get help. Like, I'm really serious. It's these wounds that we carry with us, and also the sensitivity of our souls, like who we are. We're deeply sensitive beings, humans. Really deep down, all of us, deeply, deeply sensitive. And it's very hard for us to be in that kind of deep mirroring relationship and to be able to see our blind spots. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you just need another couple or another person who is there to help you to understand one another and to hear each other and to untangle some of those places which have got a bit knotted. So getting help, I think, and don't wait to be in trouble to get help. Don't think, no, it's like make it a regular part of relationship that you get regular mirroring, either from really good friends that you trust, or you pay for it professionally, because it's worth so much.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing, which I thought was what you were going to say, that we found really useful, both with ourselves and couples that we've worked with, is that the kind of is get physical. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that, because it's very specific. And I don't mean try and have sex when you're having a row. That's not what I'm talking about.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Indeed. So very often, the kind of arguing, polarizing, combative place can go into two places. It either goes into a kind of hot-blooded, or three places. It either goes into a hot-blooded kind of standoff of, or it goes into a kind of cold, frozen thing, or the place where one's hot and one's cold, either way around. Or with people who've done a lot of work on themselves and who are really engaged in this thing, it can become very, very rational, and everyone's trying to be very, very nice and very, very understanding. But underneath it, this is absolute seething, simmering, searing anger. So it doesn't work. What we found...
Can I just say something? What we mean by that is like not imposing a theoretical truth on top of what's actually happening.
Yeah. So what we found really useful, both for ourselves and with other people that we work with, is at that point to say, stop talking. Talking is just going to send you round and round in circles, because you're not actually dealing with owning the feelings. Get some kind of situation set up where you can both be really physically angry without any words, because words get stuck. We say things in anger that are us trying to express our anger, which are barbed, which loaded, and then they stick, and the other person remembers them and then feels like they have to, or they do on some level have to defend themselves, because it's like a bullet. But if you actually can own the anger and express it physically in a way that's safe, where you're not going to hurt yourself, not going to hurt your partner. So for instance, thumping a cushion, and that's in between you, you've each got a pillow, or getting on your boxing gloves and both of you attacking not each other but a boxing bolster, and yelling your guts out and really expressing that rage. Over and over again, we found that the heart just opens. Wow. Once the anger has been expressed, and it could be that one expresses and the other holds space, and then you change over. But it's like the fire of it and the release of it. It's like the heart bursts open, and then suddenly we can get to that vulnerable layer in an authentic way. And that's, if a couple has enough trust to be able to do that in a responsible way, I would say that's a really big key.
I just wanted to add to that obviously the way that we have developed for dealing with that kind of hot, really emotional state is movement and dance. So put on some, good, angry, industrial hip hop and stamp around a bit and, move that energy through your body and out of your body, like own it and release it, because that energy in itself is not a bad thing. It's actually an expression of power, but it gets hijacked by these barbs and bullets that Susannah was talking about, and then we can't use it. And it really helps to express that physically through the body. And obviously you need to take care of your body if you're doing that kind of thing. But it's a really, it's super helpful. We teach couples that we work with how to dance their anger, whether they're feeling angry or not. It's like basic prerequisite. You have to know how to fight well without hurting each other
physically or with words.
Yeah.
But just that raw expression unlocks keys. Will you tell the handbag story?
Yes.
We have to have some good news here about where we can get through to.
Yeah. God, we've been through it, haven't we?
Well, it was called the Battle of the Sexes.
It was called the Battle of the Sexes. That's fair enough. And the medicine for it.
And
yes.
the medicine for it is, get help, anger, and trust. Those are three things we've...
The 50-50 rule.
Yeah, 4 things.
Do really unexpected things of kindness, like really surprise each other in as creative a way as you possibly can, and do it often. Like a couple of years ago, we have this little place just down the road from where we are, and I arranged for it to be made into a recording studio for Susannah without her knowing about it. And on Christmas morning, Christmas Eve, I told her, I said, I just found this little thing for you. I couldn't resist, and I'm going to take you to see it tomorrow. It's a little drive away. And then I took her, and her father was staying. We went down the road. And
my fantasy, I just couldn't imagine what this was. We had to go driving to. I was like,
is it a horse or
an elephant? I had this kind of strange. Anyway, it was like, oh well, we're going to find out.
And we drove down the road, and then I parked. I said, I've just got to get something out of the garage. And I parked in front of the garage.
So I went on talking to my dad. We didn't think we were there yet.
And lifted the garage door, and I said, there you go, Happy Christmas. And that was Susannah's recording studio.
Oh,
that was a great victory.
It was a huge moment.
And of course, she had to retaliate. And with, and that's the thing. That's a virtuous spiral. Do crazy, kind things, and it doesn't have to cost money. It can be something as simple as just seeing something beautiful, or sending a beautiful text, or just sitting down and writing down the 40 things I want to say thank you to you for, and then leaving them 2 or 3 a day on the other person's answer phone. There's loads and loads of creative, simple, cheap ways. So there's no excuse, folks, to just be kind to one another, and generous and creative. And that creates that virtuosity of our full power is then dedicated and devoted to helping the other one be who they are and give what they've got in this life. And the well for that, or the source of it, is the space between us and our connection with the divine. And that's also really key. It's very helpful. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about the direct experience of seeing the divine, something ineffable, something mysterious, something beautifully unknown in your companion, that's always fresh and always revealing itself in unexpected ways, and to bow to the mystery of who they are, never to think you actually know them, because we are as much as we trust and get to know each other, we had an experience where we suddenly realized that we'd gone from living in this beautiful house, which we thought was like fabulous, and then we found a front door and we realized this beautiful house was in a landscape of amazing mountains. We were like, wow, there's all this to explore, and there's a mountain there. Let's climb to the top of the mountain. Then you get to the top of that mountain and you realize it's the smallest peak in this extraordinary range, and you realize that it goes on forever. There is no, it's infinite how deep love can go.
Jocelyn, how long have we got? Because there are a few really important things that I want to make. I want to make sure we don't run out of time.
Okay, yeah, we should probably go to the Q&A pretty soon. We have about 8 minutes left until we reach an hour. So if we can do an hour and then do a half an hour of Q&A, that would be wonderful.
Perfect. Perfect.
What time have we got to be?
We're doing. It just has to be when it
Yeah,
is.
great, perfect. Got you. Thank you.
And that was beautiful, Yaacov, what you just said. That was really, really beautiful and so deeply true. So deeply true about what's possible in a relationship.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I want to follow on from that by just mentioning that in our lovemaking, there's a quality now that keeps expanding or deepening, which we just never even knew was possible, even though our lovemaking has always been really beautiful. And it's worth it. It's worth it. It does feel like on that cellular level of the letting go of that defensiveness. Then there's something else. There's a depth of being together and being in love together. Being in love together. That is being love together. That then waters and fertilizes everything else that we're involved in as a couple and as our individual selves. And it's like concentric rings of that love vibe then go out and touch everyone we're involved with. We were in the Amazon some years ago with one of our teachers, indigenous shaman from Ecuador, from the Atua people called him Piquet. And I was praying in that ceremony to receive guidance about how I could be more of service in the world. How I could be more effective in my service to be part of trying to find a solution so we can live sustainably and peacefully on Earth with each other and all our fellow beings on this beautiful planet. And the answer I received in the ceremony was pay attention primarily to the space between you. And this is like a spring of clear water that's a fountain. And if that is nourished and cleansed and in good order, then everything you're both involved with will flourish, and your impact, your vibrational impact on this earth is going to be amplified. And if that's not clean, clear, and beautiful and springing, then it's going to be hampered. And it was so, at that point in my unconsciousness, it was a real surprise and a bit of a, oh, this comes first. And I was like, okay, well, let's see what happens. And it's been absolutely true.
You can imagine how happy I was to hear that.
Yeah.
Yes!
I come from a feminist mother and a feminist grandmother, and it's like, women first, and you've got to do your own work and have your own, and to surrender to the reality that actually my husband is the most important part of my life. Wow, that took some getting to.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Yeah, and then what I'm getting back from that in terms of support of my own flower and my own blossoming is so ginormous. And that's the trust that I'm talking about. It's challenging. It's challenging. And Yaacov talked about coming to trust himself, and the bit we often add to that is also becoming trustworthy, both of us becoming trustworthy, as well as trusting ourselves and each other. And that doesn't mean being perfect, but it means owning up to one's fallibility and taking responsibility. And it's such a relaxation when one realizes one doesn't have to be perfect, one has to be real. And I don't have to be perfect, I have to be real. I need to be real, and I want to be real, and I want you to be real.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about.
That's big.
That's what we were talking about before, about not imposing a spiritual idea on top of reality. Like, you can't feel that because, you know, you've got this precept that you follow. It was in page 221 of the latest relationship how-to book, and it says you must do it like this. And actually, that can so easily, and very often we see it so often getting in the way. Just what's actually real, that's the door to freedom. What do you actually feel, not what's acceptable to feel,
what you think is acceptable to feel.
But what's actually true. You know, I hate you, I want to leave you, let's get divorced. You know, and again, it's not done unconsciously. Susannah was talking about words hurting before. It's done with I'm owning my own reality. I'm not throwing it at you. I'm just saying, God, this is my experience right now.
Right, you'd often, when we get to that kind of point, we'd often say something like, I feel so much hate right now. I feel like I want to get divorced. I feel like so we're, which is very different than, I'm divorcing you. No, I feel like that. I feel like I've got to draw a line in the sand here.
Oh, it wasn't nice to see that again.
No.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. This has been really beautiful and very eye-opening for me, as far as, looking deeper into our relationships, and to see the exchange between the two of you also is so beautiful. I'm so happy that you are talking about this together here, and that you are a part of this event together, because that is such a meaningful part of the whole conversation.
It's a beautiful gift that you've given us, because that's, Susannah talked about nourishing the source between us, and when you nourish it, it starts to overflow, and there's then a real we feel that we receive by being able to share some of the medicine of our relationship and what we've understood with you guys. So thank you for that.
And thank you for listening so deeply, Jocelyn. I really feel your full-bodied, full-hearted, full intelligence really tuned in.
Yeah, well, I'm learning a lot, so thank you. So I do want to open this up to have some Q&A. I do want to first share your gifts and offers that you are wanting to share with the audience. So what I'll do is I'll put these in the chat, including the links to find them online. And then for anybody who's listening to this as a recording, just look below the video and you'll see the links down there below the video on the webpage. So the first one is the Shaman's Drum 3-part online course. And I've actually just watched this the other night, and it was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Yaacov, for that. Really wonderful. So would you want to say a little bit about that as I am posting the link?
Well, the Shaman's Drum is the most reliable form and healthy form of state changer that I know. And I've been working with the Shaman's Drum for 25 years. I had an extraordinary teacher, a Sami shaman from the northern Arctic, who I write about in my book. And he really taught me the subtlety of the Shaman's Drum and what it's for. And this is the first time that I've decided to share this online. And I'm really delighted with the opportunity that I've had to do so. And it's a 3-part course, an introduction, and then it leads towards being able to take a shamanic journey with the drum. So I hope you'll enjoy that.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. So that link is in the chat. And then also Yaakov's new book. I want to give everybody a link to that. I know some of you may have already purchased it and pre-ordered it, but in case you didn't, let me share the link here.
Thank you, Justin.
And would you like to say a few words about your book?
Thank you so much. It's called Jaguar in the Body, Butterfly in the Heart, the real life initiation of an everyday shaman. And what I've tried to do is to just honestly share the 30 plus years journey I took with the whole notion of being a shaman as a white Jewish guy living in England in the 21st century. What is that? What does that mean? I was hit by lightning when I was 22, and shamanism was the only thing that I found in life which made sense of my experience. And so I've really studied that and tried to, in our relationship and in our work, we've been trying to co-create this form that honors the ancient traditions and the modern medicines that are needed, which is shamanism for our times. And so the book is my story, and it's one of my friends gave a little quote, and she said, it takes the sham out of shamanism. And I like that very much, because, you know, shamanism is often seen as something very glamorous and, you know, that you have to be supernatural. And actually, shamanism is very down to earth. It's very much, it's a tiny percentage about the amazing vision, and mostly about what I do with that amazing vision, how I live it, how I bring it to earth, and how I do that in relationship to the web of life that I'm part of. So I'm sharing my whole story of the nonsense I went through, and the difficulties and the challenges and the terrors.
Very, very beautiful and very honest, very deeply personal. Yeah, I would totally recommend it to anyone interested in this area. Yeah, anyone who really wanted to grow into being a fuller human being, because it's such an intimate, personal story.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I've ordered it. I haven't gotten it yet, but I really look forward to reading it.
Let me show you this. Hold on. This is what it looks like.
Wow, beautiful. I love that. I love that artwork too.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
Ashley Foreman, incredible, an American artist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing those two things: the Shaman's Drum online course and Jaguar in the Body, Butterfly in the Heart. Really, really wonderful offerings. So I will go ahead and open up the Q&A, and we do have one person raising their hand already. So Renee, I will bring you over to talk with Yaacov and Susannah. And anybody else who's interested, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll bring you over too as soon as I can. Let's see, it looks like that didn't work. Let me try again. Renee, bring you over. Ah, that's funny. I don't know what happened there.
Is she able to just type her question if we can't bring her over?
Maybe. Okay. Yeah, let me try again, Renee. It's just so nice to have the dialogue, you know, to keep the back and forth. So I want to try to do that. Okay. All right. Renee, trying again. I don't know why it's wouldn't work so good. There she is. Okay. Hi, Renee. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hey.
Go ahead and ask your question.
I've written my question down. Just a moment. It is in the Q&A chat. Oh, okay. You know what? I think it just disappeared. So I'm going to. My question was, can you share some best practices to approach your partner to participate in conscious raising practices and just conversations? Like, how do you first have that?
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you, Renee.
So I'm guessing this is something that's going on for you?
Yes.
This dilemma, or this, like, how do I do this in the most skillful way possible?
Yes, and it's not a dilemma, because I feel I am with a really good partner. It's just the language that I want to approach it with. I've gone with the come to yoga with me, and he says I'm not comfortable with it. It's never a definite no. So I like that I'm on a softer ground where I'm not starting like with an ice pick. I just want to do it really well, so that he has a good experience and I also have a good experience.
That's great. I'm glad to hear you're not starting with an ice pick. There's no way back from there. Sweetheart, do you want to?
I think for me the most important framing is that you, when you're talking about this with him, that you express how much it means to you to share this with him. That it's because of how much you love him and how much you want to share your own intimate being with him, that you're going, this will be so precious if I could share this with you.
Okay.
So for me, so you're really owning your own need, rather than saying, it's easy for it to sound to the other person as if you're saying you're not good enough and this is how you would get good enough.
Okay.
You need to improve yourself, and I can see why, and I know something you don't, which on a very animal level they have to defend themselves against, just to maintain their own autonomy
And dignity.
But if you're saying, this is my need and my desire, please would you give this to me to experiment with this with me, and I know it might not suit you and it might not be right, in which case that's completely fine, but it will be such a joy to me if you would do this for me. And then it gives them a chance to come from their generosity rather than dealing with feeling pressured.
Okay.
I can just tell you as a guy hearing Susannah talk, I can feel in my body the different effect of those two approaches.
Can you say,
you know, when Susannah comes with, you know, come to yoga, it'd be good for you. I can start to feel I'm contracting. I feel like, whoa, you know, I'm being pressured, even though it was done quite sweetly. And as soon as Susannah said, oh, you know, this means so much to me. I really love yoga, and it would mean a lot to me if I could share some of these things with you. I just felt my whole body relaxing, and I felt like I wanted to be generous. At least I didn't feel under pressure, so I was really happy to have the conversation. And you know, maybe if it's not yoga, and you try that and it's not yoga, maybe it's something else, and that's another good step. You know, if it's for whatever reason impossible for your partner to give you what you actually want, then they can say something like, well, if I can't give you that, but I really feel generous towards you, what could I give you in that direction? Maybe we find something else that's good for the both of us.
Okay, that's cool.
And the other thing is patience.
Yes.
Just that in the end, the best advert for your consciousness developing practices is your own consciousness and your own radiance, your own freedom, inner freedom. And that in the end, if you keep going long enough, and sometimes it does take, you know, years and years, decades for our families or people that are close to us to get that we're doing something that really is actually of value, through seeing our behavior and coming to respect that over time, then there starts to be like, oh, what is she doing? What's he doing? Something is happening here that actually is, I can see its value.
In other words, sit in your pot of honey and the bees will come a-buzzing.
And trust you.
I resonate with that. I think he's the one who's taught me patience, and I know I have changed, and I'm with him in these growing stages of our relationship, because I felt like just the gift of patience is like for the whole lifespan. I can just be grateful for that one gift. So that's why I really try to work on things like my negative qualities in me, so that I could you know, kind of give that gift back. So it's good to hear what you're saying about patience again, because it's something that doesn't come easily to me, and I always think I have it, but then it's always renewed when someone says something new about a new facet of patience.
Okay, yeah, I've got another little key for you. So ask him to do something in that way that is really clearly, this is what I'm asking of you. Please, would you do this for me? It would give me so much joy if you would. And then give him a really tiny little thing, like do one asana with me. Like rather than a big step of going to something really, like give him a little step, a little, like a less threatening thing.
Okay, and I think that would be good for me too, because then all of a sudden the conversation becomes really flat when it comes to a no. And then it's either patience, or it's being quiet and then being patient, and that doesn't like.
Or nothing.
Very
so a little step, little step that he can say yes to, and then give him so much love and gratitude, really positively reinforce it, really say, find a way to really let him know how much that means to you and how happy you are.
Positive reinforcement.
It's it's the most effective way to the virtuous circle, actually.
And we've discovered over the years that we've actually become, like Susannah has become, the woman that I always wanted to be with.
And vice versa. And he's even beginning to look like him. Growing his eyebrows in the way that I always dreamed of. Like, how did that happen?
So it's a great adventure with many chapters. And you sound so articulate, Renee, and so committed to the journey of finding out and taking responsibility. I'm sure you're going to really find your way through many of these gateways that we've been sharing with you today. And really good luck to you, and lots of love to you and your partner.
Yeah.
Feel the vibes, and I'm sending them back to you.
Thank you.
What a beauty.
Thank you. Yeah.
She's like a flower.
She's totally. I'm just getting this real beautiful thing. It's important. Patient, but not resigned. And passionate, but not pushy.
What is that? The second one again?
Passionate, but not pushy.
Passionate, but not pushy. Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Renee. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. So we have a couple more hands raised. Are you both okay on time for about 15 minutes or so?
Yeah, we're doing good.
Okay. Okay. So Katerina, I'm going to bring you over. Okay. Welcome, Katerina. Welcome.
Katarzyna, we know this woman well.
Oh, okay.
She's a flower.
So much better than I do.
Katarzyna, hey.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. So I found the courage to come on the Zoom and ask the question about relationship.
Yes.
Very
good for you. Brilliant. That's an act of a warrior. Brilliant.
Yes, it is. Well, I want to ask, when you speak about this 50-50, and as I shared with you, I left a relationship recently. And when you speak about that and about the responsibility of 50-50, it kind of brings me again this question, wondering, doubt, or how to call it. When is the time really to leave? And when is the time to deal with what is? Because I've been, I feel that I really want to take my responsibility, and I really believe that I've been doing it and going deeper into that. And at the same time, I have the experience of staying in some situations a bit too long and kind of going over my borders and taking responsibility for, as you said, like I cannot drag the partner up the hill. So if you could tell me something about this,
In a way, you're answering your own question, because it's about self-knowledge. If you know that you're somebody who doesn't have very good boundaries, who finds it difficult to say no, who stayed for too long, who has that tendency, then it's really important to recognize that, as we know you have, and to start affirming your right to have a yes and a no, and how important that is, both as a man and as a woman, how important it is. And in terms of when do you know, it's if something crosses, there's a line that we have, and the work of self-awareness is to know that line in us. When something crosses over that line, it's unacceptable. It becomes unacceptable. And either that has to change, and so you have to kind of go, investigate, could this change? could this that's unacceptable change? And if it can, great. Then you've got a chance of learning together. But if it can't, then it's already too far. And that's just how it is. And you have to accept that between you without blame. It's just you're at different places on your journey, and that's all. And I love you, and this was beautiful that we shared this. Thank you for teaching me that I have a boundary. And that's the end of this story for now.
The 50% responsibility, just to add to that, totally agree with all of that. And 50% is not 100% of the responsibility. It's simply your half. And it's okay to have some non-negotiables. We all have, this is the boundary thing that Yaacov was talking about. We have some non-negotiables that are like absolute. If we're going to be in a relationship, I need this from you. There's a beautiful book called Bridge Across Forever by Richard Bach, in which he talks about his long-term relationship with his beloved. And there came a moment when she said to him, and I find this really inspiring, she said, Richard, I know you're doing your best, but it's simply not enough for me. I need more, but I know you're doing your best, and I bow to that, and I've got to let go.
And it was genuine. It was not at all patronizing. It was really from the heart.
He got to a place where she could really, really respect that he was doing his best, and at the same time respect herself that it wasn't enough for her. And his reporting of what happened in him at that moment was very deep. He said that in her respectful articulation, he realized, actually, I'm not doing my best.
I could actually do better.
I'm not really there. But anyway, they did split up, and they had about 2 years apart, and then they found each other again. And of course, you can't do that kind of action strategically. It has to be true, which means you're really willing to let go, which is what I heard you do. And so this is, in the end, it's an instinctual thing. We just know. We know when we're done. We know when it's too much or too little. And I feel that's where you got to. And I really bow to your courage in standing for the relationship and the kind of relationship you want. That's true for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And can you tell me once again the name of the book?
Bridge Across Forever by Richard Bach. Richard Bach wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
It's an old one. It's from the 70s, I think.
It's
or
a
80s.
beautiful story about relationship. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you, Katarzyna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so we have one more person raising their hand. We have Deborah. So Deborah, I will bring you over now. Okay, welcome, Deborah.
Hi, Deborah.
Hello.
Hello, Yaacov and Susannah.
Hi.
It's so fantastic to be introduced to the two of you, and via Jocelyn in this way. I really appreciate the deep levels of understanding between the two of you. It's actually quite palpable. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
You know, and I was in a marriage for we were married for 25 years, and which is a long time. And through my own spiritual inquiry for years and years, I attempted to drag him along with me, and we just didn't seem to be able to get on the same page, the same wavelength as each other. And I was not happy with the way in which I was behaving, engaging, and so much of what you shared in your teachings today. And it was time to break that cycle. And praying and asking for guidance. And it just came over me so clear that we were to separate. And that was a way in which possibly we could move on to the next level in our relationship. And, you know, we weren't able to together. We communicate with each other, but our level of communication is, it hasn't developed or progressed much beyond, you know, the way it was. But I felt that separation, physical separation, could potentially be a catalyst in us, you know, getting back together, if that was meant to be. And it hasn't happened. It's been, you know, close to 10 years now. And I feel on so many levels I have moved on. And yet there's that lingering, like an element of sadness I still feel. And perhaps it's because of the possibility that I felt we could have had together, in a place where we could have gotten to together, you know, and I see the two of you, and I thought that's where I would have loved to have gotten to, and we just weren't able to get there. So I was just wondering if you'd speak a little bit more to that little element of, I can only describe it as a little element of sadness that I still feel.
Sure. Thank you. As you're speaking, Deborah, I can sense it in you. I can feel it in me, that sadness, and I think it's in a way something to be embraced, rather than you know, trying to clean it out or complete it, because it's real. And what you're mourning is not just him, but it's the hopes and the dreams and the faith and the trust that you invested in that marriage. You know, when we get married, it's a commitment, and we're investing in a shared dream for something beautiful and long-term, lifelong between us. And I think when people separate, and it sounds like you went through a very deep process with a lot of integrity to get to that point of recognizing that you needed to let go, we have to grieve the death of a deep, very human hope and wish and longing. And yeah, this is part of your heart. It's part of your journey in this lifetime. And I feel like actually embracing that sadness and giving it space, you're also honoring your commitment to love. And yeah, your passion for what's really important. And that the more you can embrace that kind of that sense of loss, it will transform. It's almost like a little capsule of it, I sense, in your heart, that just needs to be allowed with honor, you know, with honor for,
that's the word, yeah,
for your own self and your own depth of heart and intention.
If I may just add a little bit to that, Deborah, I just really want to thank you for the depth of your sharing, or willingness to just share your story. And you know, to me, when I was hearing you speak, I just went, oh God, there's a woman who's got such dignity in the way that she's approached this. It's like you from what you said, you really gave it everything. And there's a real honor and dignity in this didn't work. And I think I wish that we would all have in our society, in our communities, the respect for that place, that it's not a failure. It's actually, you know, you gave each other so much, I'm sure, and then it reached a natural end. Death is coming to all of us, and you know, sometimes a relationship has a death, and it's how you've dealt with it gives it that honor actually makes it your medicine, makes it your, I think many people will have been touched by what you just shared. And I really want to honor that sometimes it's not about a happily ever after.
Yeah.
It's sometimes about death, and that's part of life. And then we open to whatever life is bringing, because we have a very deep philosophy that you don't get to choose what life brings, but you do get to choose how to dance with it. And I really feel your dance has been a powerful and fully felt and deeply responsible dance. Thank you for it.
Changing way of living with that loss and making sense of it, and going on, finding the joy and the strength and the beauty that I can really feel that you have in your life.
Yeah.
And
shining, Deborah.
But with that, that thread of the loss or the sadness within you, that's part of your soul. That's part of your medicine. It's part of your beauty. That doesn't come from our perfection, but it comes from the scars that are healed, but still are there. It's like, it's okay. It's natural. It's human, and it's shared, as Yaacov says, by so many people.
Yes. Yes.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
acknowledging that for everyone that's listening to this, who's had that kind of experience. I think it's really important that we come out of the kind of Walt Disney happily ever after for everyone, or else you're a failure kind of mess, because it's just that's not it's not real.
Yes. Thank you, because there has been a lot of joy that has come out from that death as well.
Yeah.
A lot of joy in my life, and a lot of it is internal. I mean, I got to know myself on a whole other level as well, that I'm very grateful for. And I'm just so deeply touched and honored of what you shared, the challenges of relationship, and in being in right relationship. And it's a journey. It's probably a lifelong process.
Yeah.
And I am just so absolutely grateful to have had this opportunity today to hear you share your journey with me today. It's touched me deeply. Thank you.
Deborah, thank you so much.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Sending lots of love to you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think
that's
we are probably at the end of the time that we have.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, no, thank you so much for all that you have offered. And I was getting emotional during that last part too. That was really deeply moving from all around, from Deborah and from both of you. So thank you. Yeah, and so, everybody, I encourage you to reach out to Yaacov and Susannah and check out their website and those links that I shared, and connect with them. I think we've all been really deeply moved by what we've talked about here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, everyone.
And all power and all love to everyone who's watching, and everyone who'll see this at a later date. That you find that dynamic dance of feminine and masculine inside yourself in a way which is deeply empowering for you as an individual, and that you bring that to your relationships and to your love for life, so that we can make a difference and do something for the generations that will come. Thank you.
And that's true, whether or not you're in a relationship, whether or not you're in a one-to-one intimate couple long-term relationship, there's so many opportunities to give love. There are so many ways that we can generate that virtuous spiral on this planet, and enjoy. I think it's the greatest joy in our lives comes from giving love in a way that can be received, and then that primes the pump, and woo, giving, receiving,
It's a figure of 8, goes on forever.
Yeah. And it always starts here. Oof.
Yes. Well, yes, but much love and many, many blessings to both of you. Thank you again for being part of this event.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Have a great day.
Bye for now.
Or evening. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So everyone watching, I'm sure you all deeply enjoyed that conversation with Yaacov and Susannah. Next, we will have up the amazing Simone Wright. And so I encourage you to stay on, keep this window open. We will meet right back here. You don't need to end the meeting or close out of it. You can just keep this open and go take a, half an hour break and come right back, and we will be right here. So thank you all for being participants, and I look forward to sharing Simone Wright with you soon.